Gentlemen, please welcome Chief Alward.
Oh, you got him.
This is exactly what you didn't want. Yeah, you're comfortable over there. You're up here.
Well, good morning. Welcome to today's surprise ceremony in honor of Chief Master Sergeant Travis Alward, that he knew nothing about probably until 30 minutes ago, or had a hungry suspicion that something weird was going on. As you know, being in the military for 28 plus years, Chief, whether you want a ceremony or not, we're going to give you one. The retirement ceremony represents the culmination of a distinguished career in the service of the United States, as well as in support of our nation's freedom. Sir, no, it's not you, it's us. Everyone here at the 616th OC wanted to make sure you were sent off the right way and show how much we appreciate your leadership. Thank you for appeasing our selfish nature in this.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Today's going to just follow an etiquette. There's going to be a few times where we ask to stand, mainly being during the award presentation, as well as the reading of the retirement order, as well as following the reception. There's a reception in the back where we can have some cake. So as Chief Master Sergeant retires, we're going to honor him and his family for the contributions you guys have made. So we thank you for being here, Mrs. Alward, as well as Cam. Thank you for being here for this. So ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'm going to hand it off to Colonel Weavers for his remarks.
Get comfortable. Okay, so Chief, I know this isn't really what you wanted, and we had a bigger celebration plan for you that was overcome by COVID. But as Master Sergeant Alward said, we couldn't let you go without saying thank you. So normally when I do this, I kind of talk about, I go through Chief's career, but it's not every day, right, that you get to retire a Chief. I mean, 28 years, wow. I mean, I was still in college when he entered the military. We'll talk about some of the key points there. But we couldn't let you just slide out into the pasture, the oil fields, if you will, of West Texas. We couldn't let you slide out with saying a few words. So I have notes. I apologize for that, but there's a lot of things that I wanted to make sure that I hit. So first, Jamie, Cam, good to meet you. Finally heard a lot about you. Glad you guys kind of helped us force this issue, and glad you could be here, obviously. But it's really, no offense, Travis, but it's really, they've suffered the most. I mean, you've just been at work doing your job, doing great things for airmen, but they've had to deal with all the times of time away, time to work, long hours, etc. So, really big thank you to you for showing up and kind of helping us get this done.
And it's Lewis's fault.
I'm not placing blame, but it goes in somewhere in this direction a little bit, but that's okay. I was looking for Chief Lifer. She might pop in, Chief. She's going to pop in the back, but I wanted to welcome her, but she's not here yet. And then thanks to everybody who put it together, from Chief's family to Sergeant Torres to Sergeant Lardy and anybody else, Lieutenant. We had to keep it secret in the office because he literally works 5 feet from me. I don't know, did we succeed? Were you on to us? Awesome. Awesome. And so now I'll kind of talk through Travis's career. And, if I did this right, you guys would get mad at me because it would take an hour and a half to really get into all the great things he's done for our Air Force. And most importantly, you'll see, I'll mention this theme later, but for our airmen. It's been all about the airmen for Travis, and that's what made him such a great leader. So I mentioned, I was still in college when Travis came into the military, but I usually like to set the table. 1992, he came into the military. And just to set the table for the things that were going on in 1992, well, George H.W. Bush was president at the time. The Minnesota's Mall of America is being built and finished this year on 78 acres. U.S. forces landed Somalia in about, they landed in December, and about 10 months later, everyone knows Black Hawk Down from the book and the movie, but we lost a lot of heroic men and women that day. So that was a big event. It'll get better, I promise. Mafia boss John Gotti was convicted for racketeering and attempted murder or arranged murder. The #1 movie is Batman Returns. And the #1 song is Boyz II Men, End of the Road, followed closely, and I mean close, by Baby Got Back. So it tells you what the times were like back then. So just real briefly, I'll touch on Travis's accomplishments throughout his career. He started his career as an imagery interpreter, we used to call them back in the day. And he started at NAIC, which is the predecessor to NASIC today. So he was at Right Pat. And he early on showed that he was an above average performer, a stellar performer, and even in his decoration it says willingness to accept additional responsibility. So he's already paving that way for those stripes that he earned, that roof he put on his house there. He then went to RAF Molesworth and he did more imagery stuff, worked operations in the Balkans, Africa, and other places. And you start to see the trend into his next job at Offutt, where he worked at Stratcom and did kind of some target-related imagery prep. But you start to see this trend where he's training airmen. He's now a leader in his career field. He's moving airmen along, helping them get better at their craft. At Offutt, he participated or contributed to Allied Force and Northern Watch back when we were doing the no-fly zones in Iraq. And then he was picked to become an instructor, and this is where he solidified that help airmen get better, push them forward, make them great at their craft, and then teach them that oh so valuable leadership. And he taught 1,800 hours, which seems crazy amount of time. I mean, if you think about a fighter pilot, you know, they get to major and you're lucky if you see 2,000 hours on their patch. So that's a lot of time in the classroom. And he taught 900 officers, mostly in the officer course, right? But also during that time, he started to back up the superintendent and the first sergeant. And this is where, again, taking care of airmen, there's the non-judicial punishment part of that, but there's also the how do we take care of airmen and how do we prepare them for the future, that again is a theme throughout his career. And then, I don't know how you avoided it for so long. Your first DGS assignment, you go to DGS 3 in Korea and you do your time there as an IMS, leading the crew, and that is a grind because it's 27 U-2 flights a day back when you were there, 27 U-2 flights a month, and it is just cranking out imagery. It's really kind of assembly line oriented, but then you got to deal with the South Korean military sitting right next to you, so there's a lot of interesting dynamics there. After that, this is probably the job that made you chief, honestly. You go to Langley, where he's at DGS 1, and he fills every role in DGS 1 that I've ever heard of, minus commander and DO. And that's probably because only officers do those, otherwise he would have held those too. At that time, I was the 480th Wing DO, and then I went on to be the DGS 5 commander, and I kept hearing about this guy, Alward, and he's like 5 different jobs. I'm like, how can this guy do all these different jobs? Of course, that's spanned over 5 years, but as his name keeps coming up, I'm like, man, that guy must run that place. And during that time, he went from crew, ops soup, superintendent, but more importantly, he did 2.5 or so years as first sergeant. Is that about right? 3.5, 4 years as first sergeant. And that's really where he solidified that piece, taking care of airmen, and then again, that theme of just pushing our airmen forward and helping them be better and helping them through tough times. I can't imagine anybody who's left a bigger impact on the 497th ISR group than you, Travis, because I mean, literally every key position, at least on the enlisted side, you held. And then his last stop, he comes to us at the OC, first as the 625 OC superintendent, and then as obviously now the 616 OC superintendent. I'm going to miss your sage advice and your kind of guidance as we move through a lot of interesting things from the non-judicial side to pushing people into key positions. We gave up some great people, but it was all at your recommendation, and it was the right thing for them. So again, that take care of airmen, and then we've helped a lot of folks at the time of need, and you've been a sage advisor also to the first sergeant. In the 625 OC and here at 616. So that experience has definitely paid off for us. So that gets back to that theme I've mentioned a couple times. It's not all, Chief, glad you made it. I welcomed you right here. It's not all about that job performance, which obviously Travis just has nailed time and time again. It's about the taking care of airmen piece. And how much he cared for them, no matter what their situation, no matter what they needed. Multiple stints also as an honor guard member, and obviously I mentioned the first sergeant, as well as instructor duty, where he has just propped up airmen, and that's big game, by the way, and just pushed people to do better and better and greater things. And at Senior NCO Academy, I think I left that out. He also was at Gunter, where he also did the Senior NCO Academy. That's all in that trend of taking care of airmen. And then even when it came to select the next 616 OC superintendent, absolutely selfless in helping me get there. And we got a great chief coming in, but it was all him saying, we need the right chief for our airmen at this time where we're moving through things. And Chief McCarty, as you guys have seen, he brings a lot to the table. And really it was Chief's guidance that helped us get there. So Travis, I know I mentioned earlier we were supposed to have a bigger ceremony for you, and I wish we could have pulled that off, but I'm thankful to all those who helped us get this done, because it's very important to say thank you, and that's what this is all about. Big thanks again to you for helping us get it done, Jamie. As we send you off into the sunset and you move on to your beautiful mansion, even though it's fun getting there, right? Beautiful mansion in West Texas. I want you to know one thing, though, as you go through your continuing medical treatment here into July, at least. It'll probably be longer than that, but anything you need, anytime, we got you. Even though you're kind of moving on to another life now, you are always an OC member, and don't hesitate to call if there's anything we can do to help. And most importantly, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your advice. And it's really been all about that. And that's what makes you so special. Thanks.
Thank you, Colonel Weaver. Please stand as we will now receive the medal presentation.
So real quick before you read, I just wanted to say, I can't salute, so it's no disrespect to you. But I wanted to point that out because I know, when we do these things and the person doesn't salute, you go, ooh, I'm not forgetting. any disrespect. So please just know that. And it really, really bothers me. So, but go ahead.
So the take part, no shake, no salute. Got it.
Attention orders. The Legion of Merit is awarded to Chief Master Sergeant Travis K. Alward. Chief Master Sergeant Travis K. Alward distinguished himself by exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding service to the United States as Superintendent, 616th Operations Center, Headquarters 16th Air Force, Joint Base San Antonio, Lackland, Texas, from 17 June 2018 to 30 September 2020. During this period, the exemplary ability, diligence, and devotion to duty of Chief Alward were instrumental factors in the resolution of many complex problems of major importance to the Air Force. He led 438 total force airmen across 15 Air Force specialty codes responsible for command and control of the 16th Air Force's $2 billion intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance Air Force cyber enterprise. His steadfast leadership was instrumental in the establishment of the 616th Operations Center, where he guided the integration of the Air Force's cyber and intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance requirements across 5 divisions, setting the foundation for the Air Force's first Information Warfare Operations Center. Chief Alward also led a cross-unit manning fix where he established a 6-month crew rotation for 57 airmen awaiting security clearances while filling critical manning gaps, which reduced shift work requirements by 25%. Furthermore, his steadfast leadership was recognized when he was selected by the Intelligence Career Field Manager as the Senior Enlisted Intelligence Master Skills Course Mentor. In this capacity, he developed 18 senior enlisted leaders across 8 Air Force specialty codes, including the first ever non-intelligence airman invited to attend the class. Chief Alward worked diligently to establish a wing-level leadership forum, driving curriculum changes and cementing the way forward for thousands of intelligence senior enlisted leaders. Finally, his leadership ability was felt by all 16th Air Force when he was selected to fill in as the Command Chief Master Sergeant, where he oversaw a visit by the Commander of the Air Combatant Command, enabling a major commander's strategic message for 1,000 airmen. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Chief Alward culminate a long and distinctive career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force.
We're doing a video. We doing pictures?
Video.
Okay. Congratulations. Absolutely.
Alward, Colonel Weaver, where you are. Chief Alward is also being presented with a certificate of appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Khalif Wright, and his certificate of appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. I'm proud to join your friends and family in congratulating you on the retirement from the United States Air Force. The achievements and contributions you have made throughout your career are indicative of the core values of our great service. Your retirement is well deserved, but your selfless contributions will be sorely missed. On behalf of all airmen, thank you for your faithful and devoted service to our nation. As this chapter in your life closes and a new one begins, I hope the years ahead are filled with more great memories and continued success. Signed, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Wright. Additionally being presented is a certificate of retirement from the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, as well as a certificate of appreciation from the President of the United States. I don't have the exact verbiage, but we want to present it to you here. Thank you. No problem.
Hooray.
On behalf of the women and men of the 616th Operations Center, Senior Master Sergeant Torres will now present the squadron litho to Chief Master Sergeant, Chief Master Sergeant Alward.
He's gonna punch me, so I need to.
Slide, sir.
Chief, on behalf of the 616, I want to give you our squadron litho. One of the rare ones we have left, so. Also, we heard you've got a new house, right? And I know that with the new house comes a lot of trips to Home Depot. So we couldn't find what to give you. What we wanted to get you, we have like 3 or 4 of them already, from what I hear. So we just got together and got you gift cards to Home Depot so that you can get the stuff you need for your house. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senior Master Sergeant Torres. Would Mrs. Alward please come forward? We'd like to present you with the special certificate of appreciation. Sorry.
So please stay there. I'm totally interrupting the flow. Hi, how are you? Good, how are you? Great. This isn't what you imagined, I know.
It's close.
So how many of you love Chief Alward? Woo!
Yeah.
Right? How many of you love the Alward family? Yeah. I had nothing to do with this, by the way. I did tell them that you said no, right? I did say that. Torres. Okay. We just love you too much to not say thank you, right? So this is what this is about. I have 2 small tokens to give you. So let me try to correct them first. So this is the highly coveted, long-awaited 16th Air Force Command Chief coin. Wow. Check it out. It only took 6 months to get. Thank you so much for everything that you did to help us get set up on the right track. What we're doing as the 16th Air Force is the Air Force's first ever information warfare NAP is something brand new. It is incredible. And you are a huge part of that. And this will be your legacy, right? This is you. You are a flank corps. So on behalf of Lieutenant General Hawk and myself, thank you so much. So I don't know what the right protocol is now. All right. So the other one, this is more personal. This is my Wonder Chief coin, right? I have checked with DC Comics and they said it's cool as long as I'm not making money. On the back it has, in Latin, I don't know how to pronounce it because it's a dead language, but in Latin it says fortune favors the bold. And what I'm always looking for are people that demonstrate themselves and bring out in others, right? Bring out the very best. All of the things that are beautiful. That are bold enough to speak truth to power, and if they're in power, to listen. Who give outstanding service. Who lead by example and are dedicated to a higher purpose. Something bigger than themselves. Travis, there have been many times since I've had the pleasure of meeting you, where I've come into your office and asked for your time and sought your wise counsel. You are a mentor to me, a dear friend. I appreciate
Oh.
All right. So, as a personal token of my gratitude, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for what you're doing right now, and thank you for what I know you're doing in the future. You have my love and loyalty and appreciation.
So the funny thing about this coin, we had a airman a few months ago, well actually probably about a year or so more ago, that responded to a vehicle accident, and Chief gave him this coin. And when I asked him to see it, he was shaking like a leaf, and he had it in his pocket. I'll carry it everywhere with me, but he had it in his pocket, and he was shaking like a leaf, pulling it out. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, man, I mean, I've seen coins from the Chief Master Sergeant Air Force, but this is the coin that, like, I was like, I really want that coin.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. So we'd like to present Mrs. Alward with a special certificate of appreciation from Colonel Weaver, as well Commander 616th Operations Center, as well as General Goldfein, U.S. Air Force Chief of Staff, which reads, Certificate of Appreciation from the United States Air Force. In grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this certificate of recognition to Mrs. Jamie L. Alward for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Signed, James F. Weaver, Colonel, Commander, 616th Operations Center, and David F. Goldfein, General, U.S. Air Force Chief of Staff. Additionally, a letter of appreciation is being presented from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, which reads, on behalf of all Air Force airmen and their families, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force presents this certificate of appreciation to Mrs. Jamie L. Alward. I join your spouse, family, and friends in thanking you for the numerous contributions and sacrifices you made in support of our nation's, of the United States Air Force. Your dedication gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service and defense of our nation. Signed, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Kelly Wright. So now we ask Chief Master Sergeant Alward's daughter, Cam, to please come forward. She's receiving a certificate of appreciation that reads, on the occasion of their father's retirement from active duty in the United States Air Force, has earned grateful appreciation for her own unselfish and devoted service. Their unfailing support and understanding of their father's commitment helped make possible his lasting contribution to the nation. Signed, James F. Weaver, Colonel, Commander, 616th Operations Center. We will now begin the retirement portion of the ceremony. While perhaps the briefest ceremony of military protocol, its brevity should not diminish its importance. This short ceremony validates a life of sacrifice, the end of one journey and the beginning of another. We ask that you stand for the reading of the retirement order.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. Department of the Air Force, Washington, D.C. Special Orders Number AC-00100. Chief Master Sergeant Travis K. Alward, effective 30 September 2020, you are relieved from active duty, 616th Operations Center and Lackland Air Force Base. Retired effective 1 October 2020 per AFI 363203 in the grade of Chief Master Sergeant.
Woo! Hooray!
Retiree receives a special retirement pin as a memento of their active duty service. At this time, I'd like to ask Mrs. Alward to place this pin on her husband's lapel to symbolize transition from active duty to retired status. Chief Master Sergeant Retired Travis K. Alward. Please be seated.
So a lot of irony in this is going through my mind. So when I was a first sergeant, it was my second commander, Ed Blitt, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but the first like 3 or 4 retirements that we did as a team, number one, the certificates were all presented in the wrong order, and we even put yellow stickies for the proper. So kudos to you, outstanding job. But and then the other thing was like the people that were retiring would get through like 3 seconds of their speech and then start just crying. I mean, like where they couldn't even finish. I'm telling you, I'm serious. So like, as a shirt, like when I would do like my last sit down with these guys, I'm like, write your speech down and like don't forget it. Like, read verbatim. And so here I am with no speech. So I'm gonna try not to focus in this area here because I know she's gonna fall apart here soon. And Cam, she's strong. She'll be good. But and then another one. When I was at the senior academy, there was a chief there that did his retirement ABUs, and I was pissed because it looked like a practice. I'm like, are we at the practice or is this the actual ceremony? Because he's in ABUs, and I'm not in ABUs, I'm an OCP, so I'm not mad. But so I just want to thank everybody here for coming, number one. But Lewis, man, I'm not mad at you. We're good, man. So I don't know if Jamie told you it all, but I was struggling this week because I didn't think there was going to be any closure, and it was tough because 28 years, I knew what I was going to be doing since I've been 17 years old. I signed on the dotted line to join the Air Force 3 days after my 17th birthday. My mom had to sign for me too, but I knew through my whole senior year what I was going to be doing. And then probably about 20 days after I graduated high school, on the 18th of June, I set foot on Lackland Air Force Base and started basic training. And so, I was struggling to find closure. And so I just want to say thank you for this, because now I think I'm going to leave here with closure, and that's a huge thing. Colonel Weaver, thank you, sir. I appreciate you doing this for me. But sir, more importantly, I just thank you for your leadership and allowing me just to go do. You never held me back, sir, and I appreciate that. And as far as my medical stuff, I appreciate your support, because there was a lot of days that I was gone and out and trying to take care of that stuff. But without your leadership, sir, and your understanding of that, I probably wouldn't have made it the last year or so. But while we say we have the right chief, we've got the right commander too. When he came into the 625 and started with us, Colonel Russell is a great leader, a great colonel, a great commander. But you're different, sir, and we needed it. We really, really needed it, and you're what we needed in 616. I wish I could get this message out to the entire 616, because we have such a great opportunity. I say we, you have such a great opportunity. I don't know if a lot of you realize it, and especially the young airmen, but the day that we became the 616 was the same day all this COVID crap kicked off, and it's wreaked havoc on us as a young unit. Because it's tough. Even with all the technology and everything, it does not replace the face-to-face interaction. And we're Air Force. This is not how we operate. We operate. It's in our blood from day one to operate face-to-face, and we can't do that, and it really, really sucks. I could ramble on, so I'm gonna close this by thanking my wife and daughter. We're gonna look over. It's been rough. So we were kind of talking this morning. Jamie's been with me, with the exception of 10 months of my career. And those, like I told her this morning, I'm like, those are the easiest 10 months. Because I had somebody over my shoulder telling me what to do, all that. 3 months after we got married, I came home and I told her, this is a learning moment for me. I came home and I told her, I'm like, oh, I got orders to England. And she immediately starts crying. I'm like, why are you crying? She's like, well, you've got orders to England, you're leaving me. I'm like, oh, no, we have orders to England. We're going to England. And we has been huge. You could look up military spouse in the dictionary and you find a picture of Jamie Alward. She's been there with me. She's, we work in an environment that they can't go in, but I've tried to do as much as possible to help her understand what I do, where I am. We work weird shifts, why I'm working a weird shift. But she's been with me by my side the entire time, and I would not be standing here without Jamie Alward. And Cameron, you could look up military brat in the dictionary, and she'd be a good picture of her. At least 8 different schools. I thought I was doing her a huge favor by, staying in the same spot for 4 years while she could go through high school. While that was fantastic, I mean, probably 10 or so days after she graduated high school, we pulled her up out from where she was going to high school and moved her across the country. And, you see so many kids that, they're going to college with their friends are going to be their roommates, and she didn't have that. And then, furthermore, we took her to San Angelo, Texas, and said, hey, tour this college, and she looked at us like we were crazy. But then she fell in love with Angelo State, and I appreciate you going there for us, because you could have gone anywhere you wanted to. She was looking at North Carolina, and that didn't sit well with Mrs. Alward. But just my advice to y'all, it goes by quick. So make sure you kind of stop every now and then and just reflect. Reflect on where you've been and where you're going. The other thing I would tell you guys is if you want to make chief, I'm an example of if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I mean that sincerely. You want me to tell you how I made chief? I made chief because the Air Force put opportunities in front of me and I took them. And so take those opportunities. If you were working for Walmart, McDonald's, whatever, those opportunities wouldn't be there. The Air Force puts them in front of you for a reason. Take those opportunities and again, just I tried to leave it better than I found it. I hope I did. And I tried to influence as many people as possible. I wish I had more opportunity to lead more in the OC than I have had. I wish I had the opportunity more to work with Sergeant Clemens and Colonel Weaver. I think we would have made a fantastic triad. But Mike McCarty's coming in, and I think he'll take it and run with it. So take care of each other. If you're ever out in San Angelo, I've got a big back porch. It's got an outdoor kitchen, and we'll cook up whatever you want. I've got a refrigerator that'll be full, and so come see me. But thanks, y'all. I appreciate it.
Thank you for helping us celebrate and honoring Chief Master Sergeant Alward, whose career exemplifies our Air Force core values of integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. This concludes today's ceremony, so please enjoy some cake in the back and congratulate Chief Master Sergeant Alward.
Woo!
Can you take some pictures of us?
Sure.